Hello, everybody. This is Julissa. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming back to my channel. Thank you so much, of course, to everybody who's listening on Spotify and everybody who's watching this video right now on YouTube. Today is Wednesday, June 18, 2025. I want to come today and speak about the situation that I never knew about this case. It's so weird. Like I never heard about it until now. But it's there's a reason why this is being brought up again. Before I continue, thank you to everybody who has been subscribing and following me on Spotify. Don't forget to do that. Follow the podcast on Spotify. It really helps me as a creator. And everybody who's watching on YouTube, like I said, thank you. And don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. And if you want to check out my Julissa Designs store, you can just visit julissadesigns.shop or to my main website, which you can probably see it everywhere. If you follow the channel, it's julissadesigns.com, and that's Julissa with 2 S's. So there's a lot happening in the church. There's no secret about it. Everybody know. The biggest news that came out in this month is Michael Tate, obviously. A lot has been happening since late 2023. Like I come here and tell you guys all the time. One thing though, and I don't know if it's church related, but I know he used to visit. He used to go to, what's his name? The pastor that got sick at TD Jakes' church, right? And one time I saw him praying for TD Jakes. Tyler Perry has been in the news since yesterday because he's been there's a lawsuit about him, and I didn't even know like how to approach that, right? Meaning like I didn't know like what to say about it. That's why I make an episode about it. But one thing I gotta say though, everything that this man who is accusing Tyler Perry of whatever they did, right? Which I'm not gonna go into details because this video is not about that. It sounds so familiar. It's the same modus operandi of these people that are abuser in the industry. I know there is just a lawsuit, but it sounded just like the Michael Tate victims. It sounded the same thing. You know, he invited me to his house. I drank something and then I woke up to this. And we saw the same thing happen with Cosby, with the big movie guy that is in trial too. Maybe Epstein, and then the Weinstein, right? Harvey Weinstein. It's the same way. It's the same way that these people operate. Okay, and to see somebody so big as Tyler Perry, and this lawsuit that's been presented now about him and his connection with TD Jakes and all of that, like it's like you don't even know like how to speak about it, right? So it's just one thing that was brought to my attention, like it was like big red flag to me, was how similar the victims have the same basically story, because it's the same way that these people operate. Now, you guys, and I have never heard that Mr. Pastor Joel Osteen's great grandmother was beaten to death, and that's how she died in 2006. I had no idea about this. Like I said, maybe if you have been following Joel Osteen for a long time, I know people are devoted followers of Joel Osteen, his church, his books, his ministry. I know he's a very positive pastor, meaning he's all about, positivity from what I hear, briefly, things that I see him post on Twitter, on the X, all of that stuff from back then, like maybe around 2012, 2013, that I learned about him. But in 2006, okay, his great grandmother was beaten to death, right? And the reason that I'm speaking about this now is that just last week, right, or early in June, the person that got caught and put in jail for this murder of Joel Osteen's great grandmother has now been released, and all the charges has been dropped because they're saying that he's not the guy who did it. And when I heard this, you cannot help it to, not trying to make assumptions or anything, but it talks to you about, this is the big shakeup of the church, because it's 2006. How many years is that? You know, you would think that was like a case closed. They already have the person responsible, and now they're saying it's not him. So there is a killer on the loose, right? And this is very interesting, you guys. This is something that we should pay attention, and I think we'll see what comes out of this. Let me read to you guys more information, right? The murder of Texas megachurch pastor Joel Osteen's relative is back on the radar of investigators. Texas authorities have reopened the investigation into the murder of televangelist megachurch leader Joel Osteen's elderly great-aunt, who was bludgeoned to death inside her home nearly 20 years ago. I have never heard of this case before. This is so crazy that she went through something like this. The family went through something like this. This is so sad. Her name was Johnny Daniel, 84 years old. At 84 years old, she was found beaten to death inside her home in August 2006 with her face smashed. Listen to this. And a copy of the New Testament and a pencil on her chest. Wow. I mean, this is so weird because this is just my opinion, but when he's preaching, like I said, I'm not that familiar with Joel Osteen, but back when I first heard about him, you will hear him every time he was, what I noticed about his style of preaching is that he will speak about a story in the Bible, and then he always has like this sample about his life, right? There's always a story from him. There's always a story about, if he's talking about the lady at the well, then he'll give a sample of something similar that happened to him or his family, or like try to connect it like that. It's like the way I perceive him, and like I said, it's just my opinion. It's just that this pastor will preach just based on of sample of things that he have gone in his life. And in that moment, briefly, that I will watch some of his stuff, I'm like, oh wow, I never heard him say that hard time that our family went through when our great aunt was found dead, beaten to death at that age with the New Testament on her. Like, that's so symbolic right there, right? I have never heard him mention that. And maybe if you're listening to this and you know Joel Osteen, like you know his trajectory, you have bought his books and you have followed him, maybe go to his church and everything, maybe he has mentioned it before in the past. Or some people can say, we don't want, that's such a tragic thing that happened in their life. Maybe they don't want to remember, but it's a tragic thing. But to see what he has become, you would think, going through something so tragic like that, he will be giving testimony how God helped the family through that horrible time to give the glory to the Lord, right? That's just my opinion. Okay, so let's continue to read. So, a hammer wrapped in a bloody towel was also found beside Daniel, who was the aunt of Osteen, 91-year-old mother, Daddy Osteen. Her great-nephew Osteen is known for being the leader of Lakewood Church and is among the most well-known televangelists in the country. Authorities charged Dan, a 29-year-old Houston man named Eric Wilson, with Daniel's murder. At that time, DNA evidence linked him to Daniel's killing. Wilson was already in custody on a separate aggravated assault charge. Wilson was found mentally incompetent to stand trial, according to the news, and has spent 18 years in prison. The murder charge was dismissed in August 2024, so just about a year ago, right? August last year. After authorities listened to this, concluded that the key piece of evidence linking him to the woman's death, a DNA test result, was far weaker than they originally believed. The than they originally believed, the news reported at the time. Wilson, then 47, pleaded guilty to unrelated aggravated assault charge and was released on parole this March of 2025. Okay, with the prime suspect in the case now free, investigators have reopened the case. The Johnny Daniel case from 2006, says quote unquote, remains open and is very much active and is currently assigned to our homicide unit, said the Deputy Thomas Gillian with the Sheriff's Office. With they discover new evidence. Prosecutors, voices here. When and if they discover new evidence, prosecutors will assess the case and determine whether or not anyone should face charges. I mean, it says here, Lakewood Church is one of the largest mega churches in Texas. I mean, are you serious? This case is, this is crazy. Like, what do you mean? If you find new evidence, you don't know if you're going to press charges. This 84-year-old elderly was beaten to death, and she was bludgeoned to death with a hammer. I do apologize if I'm being too graphic here, but such a tragic thing that happened to her, so brutal, so like inhumane. Craziness here. And then it's symbolic, right? Because they left the New Testament on top of her and a pencil. Like, what is that all about? Right? So it sounds to me like if it's almost like the New Testament. Like, that's like, it says here, let me just read it. With her face smashed and a copy of a New Testament and a pencil on her chest. You know when they say, and I came here yesterday too and told you not to read too much into details, but there is, when investigators, right, when every time you see these shows, they always say, how do you know it's a passion murder without just by looking at the victim? They say it's when they do something to their face, right? Things like this, right? Without getting too graphic. That's what I hear when I see these TV shows. Not that I'm an investigator or nothing like that, obviously. So it's very symbolic of her murder. She was found with the New Testament and a pencil. And when you're like talking to people about something in the Bible, right? This just came to my mind. You're talking about something to people in the Bible, and they always say, they always bring up the New Testament in the way, like, you can say to them something like, I'm trying to think what example I should give you, but you can say something like, nothing's coming to my mind now to the example, but when people really want to debate with you, they always bring up the New Testament, kind of like they always want you to forget the Old Testament, right? And they say, this is the new thing now. Okay, we live in grace type of thing, right? And they always say it's the grace that we're living in now, and they want you to shut up at this point, right? And they, not that I get into this type of debates often, but what I notice when people start getting defensive in that sense, they always say New Testament, they always say, I just go by the New Testament, almost like to the point that you seem like, man, do you even read the Old Testament? Type of way, because they get so defensive. So this is why I'm saying, right, that for this woman to have been found with the New Testament like that, specifically that's so symbolic, right? I wonder why this man was, was he like a neighbor or something? Was he a member of the church or something? I mean, this happened in '06. When did Joel Osteen start preaching? I know he followed his father's footsteps. So probably the dad was preaching for a very long time before that, way before '06. So, and they're very well known in the Christian community. So obviously it's related to somebody who believes in the word, or who has they place the New Testament there. Like that's like very symbolic. So this man that was now released in March, 18 years of his life being passed around mental facilities, right? Because they said that he couldn't stand trial. Um, Now he's being released, and now they're saying the investigation is reopened. Like, guys, we're living in the times where things are being brought up to the surface. This is the first time I heard about this. And it's like, huh? Who? What? I mean, like I said, Joel Osteen, the little bit that I seen him preaching on TV, is this man gives a lot of testimonies when he's preaching, right? This is the first time I heard about something like this so tragic had happened to his family. I can understand, like I said earlier, maybe you don't want to bring up something so tragic, but look what you are doing now, right? You're like it says here, a televangelist, very well known pastor of the mega church, Lakewood, right? That's the name of it, in Houston. And you would think is going from something so tragic to something like this, you will be giving that testimony often, right? So it's just, to me, this is so just very makes you think about stuff. So I know we have to be so careful, but it's like, when did what really that actually happened? So I think I really, I believe that this is reopened again, and this man is free. The guy that was in prison for 18 years, there is a reason behind all of that. And we'll see what happens after that. Let me know, guys, what you think about this. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming back to my channel. Thank you to everybody who's listening in the podcast. Have a good day, everybody. God bless.